So my 6 favorite authors for kindergarten, probably, and they're all, they're not in any order, they're in random order. Kevin Hanks, any of the Mouse books, I adore his books. I relate to a lot of what he says. I could be Lily. So, and a lot of my kids could be Lily. So the whole sibling rivalry, the bossiness, the princess, the diva-ness, kids get it. I get it. So he would be focused very strongly. Eric Carle, of course, with magic storyteller, magic illustrator, and which kind of talks, which helps us transition a little bit between that. You need to know your subject really well. So one of my children, he had said, I think Eric Carle really likes to look at little bugs, which is probably true, because he would not know how they act or how a spider builds its web if he hadn't seen it before. But then he spins a magical story. So you start off from what you know, but then you can spin it off in a direction that you would wish it to go. Marcus Pfister for his Rainbow Fish books, and he has another few books which are absolutely amazing. Paulette Bourgeois, who is not a very well-known children's author, not very well known in a lot of the schools that I've worked at, but she does stories about Franklin the Turtle. Again, very similar situations about going to a new school, going to the dentist, finding a friend who's very bossy. So these kind of books that the children completely relate to, very authentic situations. Mercer Mayer, I think, for the Little Critter books. Simple text, beautiful illustrations, and again, situations that are so familiar for most of my students. What the magical thing that happens, of course, is that when the children start producing books in that same given that same format. So I have a child who would write a book, Just Dad and Me, based on the book by Mercer Mayer. I have another child who wrote about this little sister who they were twins, and how when they would drive to the car, his twin would be whining away in the car because she didn't like her breakfast, she didn't like the car ride, she didn't like the clothes that her mom picked out. And that would be based on a book that we'd read, any of these authors. A bossy sibling, we have bossy sibling stories, so many bossy sibling stories. And what happens is when the kids hear these stories and they bring it back to that chair and they say, this happened to me before. I was going to the dentist and I was so scared, and I went to the hospital and they put a drip on me, and I was crying all the time, but I was brave. And then I just turn around and say, wouldn't it be wonderful if you wrote a story? Tell me how many people would like to hear so-and-so write the story. And all the hands go up. And there's this complete connect between that the reader who reads the story and the writer who's going to write a similar story, and this community that is going to be part of that entire process. And of course, Leo Leone is my last pick. Again, because completely magical stories with everyday problems that my students will encounter. The other thing is about these authors that you really base a lot of your lessons, like, does this book remind me of other books? And you don't even have to read certain books in order for the kids to make the connections. They will make the connections because these stories are authentic. These stories are written by authors who know their audience extremely well, and they're phenomenal storytellers. So, sorry for the cheating, but those are my 6 top author books, and